He posted it like a joke, a private story meant for his close friends, a smiling photo, a caption written with confidence he clearly didn't think would ever reach me. Finally got her to sign that prenup. She doesn't know I changed the pages while she was signing. LOL. I was standing barefoot in the kitchen, phone in one hand, coffee going cold in the other. The apartment was quiet in that early morning way, the kind that makes you believe your life is stable. The ring on my finger caught the light as I tilted the screen, bright and innocent, like it didn't yet understand what it was attached to. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, my heart didn't even race. It slowed. That terrified me more than panic ever could. 2 years together, 6 months engaged, the wedding in 3 weeks, guest list finalized, deposits paid, a future already spoken about as if it were guaranteed. And there it was, him, laughing online about committing fraud against the woman he was supposed to marry. I reread the caption once, then again. The words didn't change. I scrolled. His friends were laughing, congratulating him, celebrating how smart he was for protecting himself, as if trust were something to exploit instead of honor, as if I were a problem to be managed, not a partner. I set the phone down and stared at the counter, noticing how steady my breathing was. That was when I realized something inside me had already shut a door. Because here's the truth about me. I don't explode when I'm hurt. I document. When we signed that prenup last week at his parents' house, everyone polite, everyone watching, I had quietly propped my phone on a bookshelf behind me. Screen dark, cable plugged in. It looked like nothing, like a dead phone charging out of habit. But it was recording everything. Every page, every signature, including the moment he stood up, said he needed water, and walked away with the documents. At the time, I hadn't questioned it. We were weeks from getting married. I trusted him. Now, standing alone in the kitchen, I opened the video and watched it with new eyes. The pages he brought back weren't the same. The print quality was different. The page numbers shifted. Subtle, but undeniable. I saved the video, backed it up, twice. Then I opened his story again, and I commented, "Actually, I filmed the whole thing. See you in court." I deleted the app, blocked his number, and called my lawyer. By 9:47 a.m., I was sitting in a leather chair across from a man who watched the video 3 times before looking at me and saying very calmly, "This is the stupidest crime I've ever seen someone record themselves committing." I nodded, and for the first time that morning, I felt completely clear. I met him the way people always say real relationships begin, without drama, without fireworks, in a moment that felt ordinary enough to trust. We were introduced through mutual friends at a small gathering, one of those evenings that blurs into polite conversation and half-empty glasses. He was calm, observant, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. When he laughed, it wasn't loud. When he asked questions, they were specific. I noticed that. I noticed how he remembered details I didn't expect him to care about, how he followed up days later, not with grand gestures, but with consistency. That's what won me over. I was 31, not reckless, not naive. I had a career that paid well enough to keep me independent, a routine I liked, and a firm belief that love should feel steady, not consuming. He fit into my life easily. Too easily, maybe. Looking back, that should have made me pause, but at the time, it felt like alignment. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. By then, our lives were already braided together in quiet ways. Shared groceries, his toothbrush permanently at my place, weekends that followed predictable rhythms, coffee, errands, dinner plans, the occasional visit to his parents' house where everything was polished and intentional. His family had money, old money energy, the kind that doesn't announce itself loudly but expects deference anyway. His father, Douglas, owned multiple car dealerships. His mother didn't work in the traditional sense, but introduced herself as a lifestyle consultant, which seemed to mean advising people on how to live when money was no longer a constraint. They were generous, but never without strings. Conversations always circled back to investments, protection, leverage. I understood that world well enough to stay cautious. So when he proposed, just the two of us, no audience, no spectacle, I said yes, because it felt like the natural next step, not a leap. He slid the ring onto my finger with hands that were steady, confident. I remember thinking, this is what safe looks like. The wedding planning moved quickly after that. Venues, caterers, deposits wired. His parents offered to gift us money for a house, but with conditions. Before anything changed hands, they wanted a prenup. That didn't offend me. In fact, I agreed immediately. I believed prenuptial agreements were practical, fair, a way to remove fear from the foundation of a marriage. I had nothing to hide, nothing to protect beyond what was already mine. I assumed we were on the same page. The meeting was scheduled at his parents' house on a Tuesday evening. Formal, 8 pages, standard language, separate premarital assets, equal division of marital property, no alimony unless we hit a decade together. Reasonable, clean. What I didn't tell anyone, not even him, was that I have always trusted evidence more than intention. Maybe it comes from watching too many people say the right things while quietly doing the opposite. Maybe it's just how my mind works. But whenever something carries real consequences, I document it. I don't announce it. I don't make a show of it. I just make sure I can prove what happened if I ever need to. So when we sat down to sign, I positioned my phone behind me on a bookshelf, cable plugged in, screen dark. It looked like nothing, like a dead device charging out of habit. Page by page, we went through the document. Initials, signatures, calm conversation. Then, halfway through, he stood up and said he needed water. He took the entire stack with him. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I trusted him. I trusted the room. I trusted the story I thought I was living inside. That trust lasted exactly 6 days. The first crack didn't arrive as suspicion. It arrived as discomfort. It settled in quietly, like a draft you only notice once the room goes still. After the prenup meeting, life was supposed to move forward. Final fittings, seating charts, small arguments about flowers that didn't actually matter. On the surface, everything stayed normal. He kissed me goodbye in the mornings. We talked about the honeymoon. He asked if I preferred mountains or the coast, as if nothing had shifted. But I felt it. A slight change in the way he watched me when I mentioned money. A pause, barely there, when conversations turned to ownership, timelines, logistics. Little moments where his answers were technically correct, but emotionally evasive. One night, a few days after the signing, we were sitting on the couch, scrolling through our phones. His shoulder brushed mine, familiar, comfortable, and yet my body didn't fully relax. I asked casually, "Did your dad say anything after we left?" He shook his head. No. Why would he? The answer was too quick, not defensive, just rehearsed. I nodded, pretending it meant nothing. I didn't press. I never press unless I already know where I'm going. What unsettled me most wasn't his words. It was the absence of curiosity. He didn't ask how I felt about the prenup afterward, didn't check in emotionally, didn't say, "I know this stuff can feel heavy." He treated it like a box checked, a transaction completed, as if the paperwork mattered more than the person signing it. That's when I started paying closer attention. His mother made an offhand comment during a family dinner, something about how smart women protect themselves early. She smiled when she said it, but her eyes flicked toward me, sharp and measuring. His sister laughed, chimed in with something about how people always show their true colors after marriage. I smiled back, took a sip of water, filed it away. Later that night, as I brushed my teeth, I caught my own reflection in the mirror and realized my jaw was clenched. I hadn't noticed when it tightened. My body had reacted before my mind did. I told myself I was overthinking. That's what women like me always say right before they stop trusting their instincts. And then the next morning I saw his story. Not for the first time, because the words were already burned into me, but with the kind of clarity that turns a suspicion into a fact. So I did what I always do. I went to the evidence. The moment I pressed play, the past rearranged itself. The video opened exactly the way I remembered it. His parents' living room, soft lighting, neutral tones meant to feel calming. My phone sat behind me on the bookshelf, screen dark, cable plugged in. No one noticed. No one ever does. We went through the prenup page by page, 8 pages, initials in the margins, signatures at the end. His father watched closely, hands folded, saying very little. His mother smiled when appropriate. Everyone played their roles perfectly. Then, halfway through, my fiancé stood up. "Oh, water," he said, casual, almost distracted. He gathered the entire stack of papers in one smooth motion and walked out of frame. The camera kept recording. 90 seconds passed, maybe less. He returned, set the stack down, and we continued. No comments, no explanation. Watching it now, the difference was unmistakable. The pages he brought back were not the same. The print quality shifted, slightly darker. The page numbers sat higher on the margin, subtle enough that no one flipping casually would catch it. Obvious enough if you knew exactly what to look for. I paused the video, zoomed in. I took screenshots, then screen recordings, then downloaded the original file and saved it to 3 separate places. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I moved with the kind of focus that only comes when something inside you has gone very still. Only after everything was secured did I act. I made it public. I blocked him. I called my lawyer. Dennis Kowalski watched the video 3 times before leaning back in his chair, lips pressed together. "This," he said slowly, "is the stupidest crime I've seen someone document themselves committing." I nodded. "It's fraud." "Yes," he said, "and the confession online makes it even cleaner." He laid out the facts calmly. Document substitution, intent, evidence. The prenup was void. The wedding, legally, practically, was over. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "I'm not marrying him." "That's step 1, Dennis said. Step 2 is protecting you." We drafted a letter, formal, precise, addressed to my fiancé and his parents. Video evidence attached. Screenshots included. Notification of potential criminal charges. Wedding canceled. Dennis sent it certified mail, then emailed it, then asked if I was safe going home. The apartment we shared was in my name. He'd moved in 8 months earlier. I packed his things that afternoon. Clothes, shoes, bathroom products, the decorative junk he insisted made the place feel finished. 4 hours of quiet work. No music, no tears, just boxes stacked neatly in the living room. I changed the locks. It cost me $180. I didn't blink. Around 6 that evening, someone tried to unlock the door. It didn't work. The pounding started seconds later. "Open this door, right now." I checked the camera I'd installed earlier that day. My fiancé stood there with his mother and sister, faces tight with anger. I opened the door with the chain still on. "Your things are right here," I said, gesturing behind me. "You have 1 hour." His voice shifted instantly, softer, familiar. "Baby, we need to talk. It was just a joke." "A joke?" I said. "You committed fraud and bragged about it online." His mother cut in. "The prenup is still valid. You signed it." "I signed a document," I said. "He swapped it. I have video proof. My lawyer has everything." His sister stepped forward. "You can't just kick him out." "He's not on the lease," I said. "I absolutely can." He tried pleading next. Asked where he was supposed to go. "Not my problem anymore," I said. "You committed fraud against me." His mother's face flushed. "Do you know who we are?" "Yes," I said calmly. "And none of it changes what's on that video." I closed the door. From the camera, I watched them load boxes into an SUV in angry silence. 3 trips. A lot of muttering. His sister swore under her breath. He looked like he wanted me to fold. I didn't. At 9 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "You've made a serious mistake. Call me immediately." I forwarded it to Dennis. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. The shock didn't hit all at once. It came in waves, quiet, delayed, almost polite. The morning after everything exploded, I woke up before my alarm, staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar silence of the apartment. No footsteps in the kitchen, no phone vibrating on the nightstand, no low voice asking if I wanted coffee. For the first time in weeks, the air felt still. My phone buzzed constantly. Missed calls from unknown numbers. Voicemails I didn't open. Texts that started polite and slid quickly into threats. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Dennis had everything. The evidence spoke louder than any explanation I could give. Around mid-morning, my mother called. I told her the truth without embellishment. Fraud, video proof, wedding canceled, charges likely. There was a pause on the line. Then she said, "I always wondered why he rushed things." That was when the first crack of emotion finally surfaced. Not sadness, but something sharper. Relief mixed with anger. Not at him exactly, but at myself for ignoring the tightness in my chest every time his family talked about money like it was a weapon. "I'm proud of you," she added, "for not freezing." That mattered more than I expected. By afternoon, the messages escalated. His mother left a voicemail accusing me of overreacting. His sister texted from a new number, calling me heartless. He tried again from an unfamiliar area code, voice breaking as he begged me to talk to him like adults. I deleted them all. When the knock came at the door that evening, I didn't jump. I checked the camera first. It was him, alone this time, shoulders slumped, hands shoved into his jacket pockets like a child waiting to be let back inside. I didn't open the door. "Please," he said through the wood. "Just 5 minutes." I rested my forehead briefly against the door, feeling the solid barrier between us. The safety of it. "You lied to me," I said evenly. "You committed fraud. There's nothing left to discuss." "I was protecting myself," he said. "My dad said—" "Stop," I cut in. My voice surprised even me. Steady, cold, unmistakably done. Every sentence that starts with someone else's advice just proves you knew it was wrong. Silence followed, heavy, pressing. I loved you, he said finally. I closed my eyes. I loved who I thought you were, I replied. That person doesn't exist. He didn't argue after that. The camera caught him standing there for almost a full minute before turning away, shoulders rigid, jaw clenched. That night, I sat on the floor of my bedroom, back against the bed, and let myself feel it. The anger came first, hot and focused. Then grief, not for him, but for the future I'd been planning. The version of myself who'd almost signed away her safety for the sake of peace. I wasn't loud, I wasn't cruel, but I was thorough. And whatever came next, I would meet it clear-eyed, documented, and unafraid. The calm didn't last. It never does when people who are used to control realize they're losing it. The first sign came the next morning, just after 9. I was standing at the kitchen counter, answering emails, when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Finally, a text appeared. This is Douglas. You've made a serious mistake. Call me immediately so we can resolve this. I forwarded it to Dennis. Then I typed a single reply. Please direct all communication to my attorney, Dennis Kowalski at Kowalski & Associates. 3 minutes later, another text came through. You smug little girl. You have no idea what you've started. I took a screenshot, sent it to Dennis, then blocked the number. By noon, the calls started coming from different phones. His sister's. Numbers that went straight to voicemail. I didn't listen to a single message. I didn't need to. Every attempt only strengthened my case. Dennis called that afternoon. They're panicking, he said, almost amused, which means they're about to make mistakes. He wasn't wrong. By Wednesday morning, my phone rang with a call from HR at work. Can you come by today? The woman asked carefully. There's been a complaint. My stomach dropped, not from guilt, but from recognition. What kind of complaint? I asked. An anonymous report alleging workplace harassment. At HR, they asked questions methodically. Names, interactions, comments, touch. Every answer was simple. No, never. Absolutely not. I watched their expressions shift as the pattern became obvious. The complaint was detailed, but vague. Emotional, but unsupported. Designed to scare, not to prove. When I left the office, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, but fury. That afternoon, I walked out to the parking lot and froze. My car sat exactly where I'd left it. All 4 tires were flat. Slashed. I filed a police report. The officer asked if I suspected anyone. Yes, I said evenly, and it's documented. That night, his mother went public. A Facebook post, long, emotional, carefully crafted. She wrote about her poor son, about how he was being harassed by a vindictive ex-fiancé who couldn't accept that the relationship was over. She accused me of stalking, of lying, of trying to destroy their family. The comments flooded in with sympathy until someone asked what she was referring to. And then the truth surfaced. A comment appeared pointing out the fraud, the video, the confession. The tone shifted instantly. Questions replaced sympathy. Confusion turned into doubt. Within an hour, the post disappeared. Too late again. Dennis called the next morning. The DA picked up the case, he said. Forgery and fraud. I sat down slowly, the edge of the bed pressing into the backs of my knees. That was fast. Video evidence tends to speed things up, he replied. They want a formal statement next week. Late Thursday night, someone rang my doorbell camera repeatedly. Douglas stood outside, face red, posture rigid, like he was daring the door to defy him. I didn't open it. Leave, I said through the speaker, or I'm calling the police. You think you can threaten my family and walk away? He snapped. I didn't threaten anyone, I said calmly. Your son committed fraud. I have proof. That's a fact. I'll bury you in legal fees, he said. You can't afford to fight me. I can afford to send a video to the police, I replied. That's free. He stared at the camera for a long, silent 30 seconds. Then he left. By Friday, a new lawyer contacted Dennis, claiming to represent my ex, wanted to clear up the misunderstanding. Dennis sent him everything. By the following week, that lawyer withdrew. I watched it all unfold from a distance, a strange observer to my own life. Every move they made, every threat, every lie, every attempt to intimidate, only tightened the net around them. The wedding date loomed on the calendar, crossed out in red. Instead of fittings and rehearsals, I was preparing statements and police reports. Instead of vows, I was watching a family unravel under the weight of their own entitlement. And through it all, one thing became clear. They weren't angry because I'd ruined their plans. They were angry because I hadn't folded. The turning point didn't come with a confrontation. It came with confirmation. A week after the night he stood outside my door, Dennis called me early in the morning. They picked it up, he said. I didn't ask who they were. I already knew. The district attorney's office is moving forward. Formal charges, forgery, and fraud. So it's not just us anymore, I said. No, Dennis replied. It's the state. That afternoon, I met with a detective to give my formal statement. I brought everything: videos, screenshots, timestamps, messages, the deleted story saved in 3 formats. I laid it all out calmly, methodically. The detective watched the video, eyebrows lifting slightly. He really posted this himself? He asked, scrolling through the screenshots. Yes, he shook his head. People make bad decisions under pressure, but this is thorough evidence. The backlash came fast. His family tried again, this time through lawyers. A new attorney reached out to Dennis, proposing a deal: drop the charges, walk away quietly. They'd cover the wedding cancellation fees. They'd make it worth my while. They seem to think this is negotiable, Dennis said. It's not, I replied without hesitation. A few days later, that lawyer withdrew. No explanation. Just gone. By then, his mother had gone silent online. His sister stopped showing up at my door. The harassment slowed, not because they felt remorse, but because they were running out of moves. Then something unexpected happened. Human Resources at work called me in, not for discipline, but to close the investigation. We interviewed everyone, the HR manager said. There was no evidence, none. We're formally dismissing the complaint. I nodded, my shoulders finally relaxing. The final confirmation came a week later. Dennis called again. Their third lawyer withdrew. I laughed, a short, incredulous sound that surprised me. That's 3 now? 3, he confirmed. No one wants to touch this once they see the evidence. For the first time since this started, I stopped checking my phone compulsively, stopped bracing for the next threat. That night, I took the ring off. I didn't throw it. I didn't stare at it dramatically. I placed it gently on the counter and looked at it for what it really was. Not a promise, not a symbol of love, but evidence. I felt no guilt, only clarity. The arraignment happened on a gray morning that felt heavier than it should have. I didn't attend in person. Dennis advised against it, but he called me immediately afterward. He pleaded not guilty, Dennis said. Standard move. His attorney tried to frame the Instagram post as a joke, tried to argue that the video didn't conclusively prove document substitution. Dennis told me the prosecutor played the video in court anyway, zoomed in, slowed down, page numbers clearly shifting position. The judge wasn't amused, Dennis added. Trial dates set. Bail conditions were issued. He was ordered to stay away from me and my family. No contact, no intermediaries, no excuses. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then it broke again. 2 days after the arraignment, I received a voicemail from a woman I didn't know. Hi, this is Brianna Chen. I'm sorry to call you out of the blue. I think you should know something. I didn't call her back immediately. I called Dennis first. Meet her in public, he said. Record everything. We met at a cafe on the other side of town. She was around my age, professional, composed, the kind of woman who looked like she'd debated for a long time before reaching out. This isn't the first time, she said after we sat down. She told me about an engagement 4 years earlier. Another woman, another long relationship, another quiet betrayal. Money siphoned from a joint account, $20,000. Move slowly, carefully. When the woman confronted my ex, he played remorse, promised it was temporary, claimed he was handling something, and would put it back. Douglas had stepped in, paid the woman back, added $30,000 more, and made her sign an NDA. He learned he could get away with it, Brianna said softly. So he tried again. She told me my ex had called her recently, angry, frantic, insisting he was the real victim, that he'd done nothing wrong, that I was destroying his life over a misunderstanding. Brianna had recorded the call. Dennis sent the recording to the prosecutor. They loved it. Pattern of behavior, prior knowledge, intent. The retaliation escalated anyway. One morning, I found my car with all 4 tires slashed. The security camera in the lot had malfunctioned. The police took a report. I told them exactly who I suspected. They wrote it down. Later that same day, his sister showed up at my door with 2 friends, yelling through the hallway that I was ruining his life over a mistake. I didn't open the door. I called the police. When officers arrived, the women were still there, still shouting. They were told to leave or be cited for trespassing. They left. The entitlement didn't. That weekend, my parents called. His mother had shown up at their house unannounced, crying, accusing, claiming I was abusive, that I'd lied, that I'd raised false charges. My father had told her calmly that her son committed fraud and that there was video proof. When she called him a liar, my mother told her to leave and not return. A few days later, an envelope appeared under my door. Inside was a check, $75,000, a typed note. Final offer. Drop all charges. Sign the enclosed NDA. The NDA was absurd. I wouldn't be allowed to talk about him, about the prenup, about the charges, about anything that had happened. I would essentially be erasing the truth in exchange for money. I took a photo, sent it to Dennis. His response came back immediately. LOL. No. Frame it. I wrote one word across the check in thick black marker. Declined. Then I mailed it back to his father's dealership. After that, the lawyers started disappearing. One withdrew quietly, then another, then another. By the fourth, they ran out of private attorneys willing to attach their names to the case. He ended up with a public defender. The plea deal came weeks later. 1 count of fraud, 18 months probation, community service, a fine, a permanent criminal record. No jail, but no escape either. His professional license was suspended pending review. The licensing board didn't look kindly on fraud convictions. His career, built carefully over years, cracked under the weight of one decision he'd laughed about online. The social fallout was brutal. Country club memberships quietly not renewed. Business partners distancing themselves. His family's reputation, so carefully curated, fracturing under public scrutiny. And then, it was over. Not cleanly, not kindly, but completely. 2 months after everything unraveled, my life became quiet again. Not empty, quiet. The wedding date passed without ceremony. No white dress, no aisle, no vows whispered under borrowed promises. Instead, I spent that weekend repainting the bedroom, choosing a color I loved without asking anyone's opinion. I replaced the furniture he'd insisted on, opened the windows, let the space breathe. The ring was gone. I sold it without sentiment and used the money to pay off my car and take my parents on a short trip. They never asked questions. They didn't need answers. Their presence was enough. He took the plea deal. Fraud conviction, probation, community service, a fine, a criminal record that would follow him longer than any engagement ever could. I heard updates through the periphery of other people's lives. His family retreating from public view, social accounts deactivated, invitations quietly rescinded, a reputation built on entitlement finally meeting consequence. The last contact I received from him arrived as a letter, no return address, familiar handwriting. I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed everything. I read it once. Then I wrote back. I am very happy. Thank you for asking. And I mailed it to his parents' vacation condo. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel revenge. What I felt was alignment. Therapy came next. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why I'd ignored the early warnings. Why I'd mistaken consistency for character. Why I'd believed that calm meant safe. My therapist asked me once if I felt guilty about pressing charges. No, I said without hesitation. If I hadn't, he would have done it again. Just to someone quieter, someone with less proof, someone easier to scare. She nodded. That was the lesson. This story was never about a prenup. It was about boundaries, about documentation, about refusing to let love become leverage. Some people grow up believing rules are optional until someone finally holds them to account. I didn't destroy anything. I told the truth, I proved it, and I walked away. And if there's one thing I carry forward now, it's this. Love without honesty is just strategy wearing a smile. And trust, real trust, never needs secrecy to survive. That chapter is closed. The rest of my life is mine again.